My name is Sarah Hayes. I'm 28 years old, and for most of those years I've been invisible. I live in a small, rain-washed apartment in Seattle, the kind with a perpetual view of damp rooftops and gray skies. I work from home as a data analyst for a company no one's ever heard of. It's a quiet life, a simple one. To my family, it's a failed one. In the Hayes family constellation, I was the dim, forgotten moon, forever orbiting the brilliant, blazing sun that was my brother Ethan. He was 2 years older, a supernova of charisma and ambition. From the moment we were born, the narrative was set. Ethan was destined for greatness. I was destined to be his sister. He was the one with the chiseled jaw, the easy laugh, the magnetic personality that drew people in like moths to a flame. He graduated top of his class from an Ivy League business school, built a tech startup from the ground up, and was a regular feature in magazines that celebrated young, disruptive entrepreneurs. He was the golden child, the one who made our parents proud, the one who fulfilled every single one of their meticulously crafted dreams. And then there was me, Sarah, the afterthought. I was the quiet girl with the mousy brown hair who preferred books to parties. I didn't have Ethan's looks or his charm. My grades were good but not spectacular. I chose a state college over a prestigious university, a decision my parents still lamented at family gatherings. I was, in their carefully curated world of appearances, a smudge on the otherwise perfect family portrait. A disappointment they tolerated with polite, pained smiles. The comparisons were relentless, a slow and steady erosion of my self-worth. "Why can't you be more like Ethan?" my mother would sigh, looking at my simple wardrobe. "Ethan just closed a 7-figure deal," my father would announce at dinner, his eyes glancing over me as if I were a piece of furniture. They didn't see me. They only saw the reflection of what I wasn't. Ethan was engaged now, to a woman as perfect as he was. Isabella Montgomery was an heiress, the daughter of a real estate tycoon. She was beautiful, elegant, and moved through the world with an effortless grace that I could only dream of. Their engagement was the talk of the town, a merger of two powerful families, celebrated in the society pages. Their wedding was to be the event of the year, a lavish affair at a sprawling vineyard in Napa Valley. I knew, of course, that I wouldn't be a bridesmaid. That role was reserved for Isabella's equally perfect friends. But I had assumed, with a naivete that now seems foolish, that I would at least be a guest. I was his sister after all. Blood, I thought, had to count for something. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon. The Seattle sky was weeping, a steady drizzle streaking down my windowpane. I was nursing a cup of tea, trying to debug a complex string of code. My phone buzzed, and my mother's name flashed on the screen. A familiar knot of anxiety tightened in my stomach. "Sarah," she said, her voice crisp and devoid of warmth. There was no preamble, no small talk. My mother was a woman who valued efficiency above all else. "Hi, Mom. What's up?" "I'm calling about the wedding," she began, and for a fleeting, idiotic moment, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe she was calling to ask for my flight details. "As you know, it's a very exclusive event. We have a specific vision for the day. Everything has to be perfect." I listened, the silence in my apartment growing heavier with each of her carefully chosen words. I knew what was coming. I could feel the axe swinging even before it fell. "Ethan and I were talking, and your father agrees. It's just, well, it's better this way." She took a breath, a small, sharp intake of air. "We've decided it would be best if you didn't attend." The words hung in the air, cold and sharp as shards of glass. I said nothing. My throat had closed up, my mind struggling to process the sheer, unadulterated cruelty of it. She took my silence as an invitation to explain, to justify. "Sarah, please try to understand. This is the most important day of Ethan's life. Every detail matters. The guest list, the photographs, the overall picture." She paused and then delivered the final, fatal blow. "You'll ruin the picture, darling. We don't want anyone to see you." The word was a slap in the face. It wasn't about seating arrangements or limited space. It was about me. My existence was a stain on their perfect canvas. My quiet, unremarkable life, my plain face, my lack of status. I was an embarrassment. A failure to be hidden away, lest I tarnish the golden image of the Hayes family. A strange calm washed over me. The knot in my stomach dissolved, replaced by an icy resolve. The years of quiet humiliation, of being overlooked and undervalued, coalesced into a single clarifying moment. This was not just an insult. It was a declaration. In their world I did not exist. "I see," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Thank you for letting me know." "Good," she replied, relief evident in her tone. She had expected tears, pleading, an emotional outburst. She didn't know me at all. "It's for the best. We'll tell people you had a work emergency. Something unavoidable." "Of course," I said. "Unavoidable." We hung up. I stared at the rain-streaked window, the gray sky a perfect mirror of the emptiness inside me. But it wasn't an emptiness of despair. It was the emptiness of a slate wiped clean. They thought they were erasing me from their perfect day. They had no idea they had just handed me the pen. 'Cause they were right. The Sarah they knew, the mousy, insecure girl who worked a dead-end job, had no place at that wedding. But the woman I had become, the one I had carefully built in the shadows while they basked in Ethan's manufactured sunlight, was a different story entirely. They didn't know that my dead-end data analysis job was a cover. For the past 4 years, I had been running one of the most sought-after cybersecurity firms in Europe, all under a discreet and highly respected pseudonym. The company no one had heard of was my own, a ghost corporation I'd set up to handle my US payroll. While they thought I was wasting my life away in a dreary Seattle apartment, I was actually living in Lisbon, Portugal, managing a team of the world's most brilliant hackers and security experts. The Seattle apartment was just a mailbox, a virtual address to maintain the illusion of the failed daughter. My work wasn't glamorous in the way Ethan's was. I didn't grace the covers of magazines. My victories were silent, celebrated in encrypted chat rooms and the quiet satisfaction of knowing I had protected fortunes, secured national secrets, and dismantled complex digital threats without anyone ever knowing my name. I had built a life of substance, not of style. I had powerful connections not with society columnists, but with people who moved in the worlds of international finance, intelligence, and law. People who valued competence over charisma. And for the past year I had been working on a passion project. A private investigation, fueled by a nagging suspicion that my brother's meteoric rise was too good to be true. Ethan was charming, yes, but he wasn't a genius. His success felt hollow, performative. So I did what I do best. I used my skills, my resources, my team. We peeled back the layers of his company, innovate, and what we found was rotten to the core. Ethan wasn't an innovator. He was a con artist. His entire company was an elaborate Ponzi scheme. He was using money from new investors to pay off the old ones, all while funding his lavish lifestyle. The numbers were a work of fiction, the patents were fraudulent, and the whole glittering enterprise was a house of cards, teetering on the verge of collapse. His marriage to Isabella Montgomery wasn't a love match. It was a lifeline. He needed her family's money, their name, their legitimacy. The wedding wasn't a celebration of love. It was the final, desperate act in his long con. He was selling himself to save himself, and he was about to drag the Montgomery family down with him. My mother's words echoed in my mind. "You'll ruin the picture." A slow, cold smile spread across my face. She had no idea how right she was. I wasn't going to ruin the picture. I was going to burn the entire gallery to the ground. The wedding was scheduled for a Saturday in June. 3 weeks away. Plenty of time to prepare. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I opened my laptop, the cool glow of the screen illuminating my face in the darkening room, and I got to work. My team was already on standby. We had compiled a dossier on Ethan's activities that was as thick as a novel, complete with bank records, encrypted emails, and sworn affidavits from 2 of his former partners whom he had cheated and threatened into silence. It was a masterpiece of digital forensics. But I needed more than just data. I needed impact. I spent the next 2 weeks orchestrating the fallout. I contacted a trusted journalist at the Wall Street Journal, a man whose career I had saved 2 years prior by discreetly plugging a catastrophic data leak at his paper. I gave him the story of a lifetime, with a strict embargo. It would drop at precisely 3 p.m. Pacific time on the day of the wedding. Next, I reached out to a contact at the SEC, forwarding a heavily encrypted, anonymous tip complete with a breadcrumb trail that would lead them directly to Ethan's offshore accounts. The trail was designed to become active the moment the news story broke. Finally, I booked a flight. Not to Seattle but to San Francisco. I arranged for a car and then I went shopping. The mousy girl in the sensible shoes was retired. The woman who emerged was someone my family had never met. I bought a dress, a single column of deep emerald silk that clung to my body in a way that was both elegant and unapologetic. It was the color of money and envy. I had my hair styled not in its usual unassuming ponytail, but in sleek, polished waves that fell over my shoulders. I bought shoes with heels that made me feel dangerously tall. When I looked in the mirror, a stranger looked back. A woman who was not invisible. A woman who was not going to be hidden. The day of the wedding was beautiful. The California sun shone down on Napa Valley, bathing the vineyards in a golden light. The venue was breathtaking. A sprawling estate with rose gardens, stone fountains, and a grand hall with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the rolling hills. It was a perfect setting for a perfect lie. I arrived late, exactly as the guests were being seated for the reception. I had bypassed the main entrance, using a service road my team had scouted. I walked in not through the grand foyer, but through the French doors that opened onto the terrace. My timing was impeccable. The string quartet had just finished a piece, and in the momentary lull, the sound of my heels clicking on the marble floor echoed through the hall. Every head turned. A ripple of confusion went through the crowd. I saw my father first, his face a mask of disbelief. Then my mother, her perfectly painted smile faltering, her eyes widening in horror. And then Ethan, standing beside his beautiful bride, his face pale as a sheet. He looked at me as if he'd seen a ghost. For a moment, I think he believed I was the ghost of the sister he had buried. I ignored them all. My eyes sought out one person, Mr. Montgomery, Isabella's father. He was a formidable man, with a reputation for being shrewd and ruthless in business. He was standing near the head table, a glass of champagne in his hand. I walked directly toward him, my steps measured and confident. The whispers followed me like a wave. "Mr. Montgomery," I said, my voice clear and calm. "My name is Sarah Hayes. I'm Ethan's sister." He looked down at me, his expression a mixture of surprise and annoyance at the interruption. "I wasn't aware Ethan had a sister," he said, his tone dismissive. "He keeps me as a secret," I replied with a small, knowing smile. "He has many secrets. That's what I need to talk to you about." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my mother start to move toward me, her face a thunderous mask of rage. My father put a restraining hand on her arm. Ethan was frozen, paralyzed. "This is hardly the time or the place," Mr. Montgomery said, his voice dropping to a low growl. "On the contrary," I said, never breaking eye contact. "There is no better time. In about 5 minutes, a story is going to be published in the Wall Street Journal. It's about my brother's company. It's also about the $50 million of your money that he's counting on to stop it from imploding." His eyes narrowed. The dismissiveness vanished, replaced by a flicker of sharp, cold interest. He was a predator who had just scented blood in the water, and he didn't yet know if it was mine or someone else's. "Who are you?" he asked again, but this time it was a real question. "I'm the person who has been tracking your future son-in-law's fraudulent activities for the past 12 months, I said softly, so only he could hear. "I'm the person who knows about the shell corporations, the falsified earnings reports, and the investors he's bankrupted. And I'm the person who is giving you a 5-minute head start to salvage what you can of your family's reputation and fortune before this entire beautiful wedding becomes a crime scene. His face lost all color. He pulled out his phone. His thumb moved quickly across the screen. At that exact moment, phones began to buzz and chime all over the room. The embargo had lifted. The story was live. A collective gasp went through the hall as guests read the headlines. Innovate CEO Ethan Hayes accused of running multi-million-dollar Ponzi scheme. The House of Hayes. A tech empire built on lies. The string quartet, Oblivious, started to play again. The cheerful melody was a grotesque counterpoint to the silent, unfolding chaos. I turned from Mr. Montgomery and walked to the head table. I looked at Isabella. She was staring at her phone, her face a porcelain mask of shock. Her eyes, when she lifted them to meet mine, were filled with a dawning, terrible understanding. She wasn't looking at Ethan. She was looking at me. He was going to ruin you, I said to her, my voice gentle. He was going to take everything from you and your family. This wasn't a marriage. It was a bailout. She said nothing. She simply stood up, her movements graceful even in her shock. She took off the $2 million diamond ring Ethan had placed on her finger an hour earlier, and set it carefully on the table beside her plate of untouched salmon. Then, without a single backward glance, she turned and walked out of the hall. The wedding was over. Now I finally looked at my family. My mother's face was contorted with a rage so pure it was almost beautiful. My father looked old and broken, his world crumbling around him. And Ethan was a wreck. His perfect facade had shattered, revealing the terrified, hollow man beneath. "Why?" he whispered, his voice cracking. "Why would you do this?" I looked at him, at the brother I had once adored, the brother who had so casually discarded me. And I felt nothing. No pity, no anger, not even satisfaction. Just a vast, cold emptiness. "You told me I would ruin the picture," I said. "I decided to agree with you." I turned and walked away. I didn't run. I walked slowly, deliberately, through the stunned and whispering crowd. I could feel their eyes on me, the so-called failure, the invisible sister who had just detonated the lives of one of the city's most celebrated families. As I reached the doors, my mother's voice, shrill with hatred, cut through the air. "You will never be one of us. You are nothing." I paused at the threshold, my back still to her. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. They were the ones who were nothing now. Their picture was ruined forever. "You're right," I said to the empty doorway. "I was never one of you. Thank God for that." I stepped out into the brilliant California sunshine and didn't look back. My car was waiting. Took me back to the airport, where I boarded a flight to Lisbon. As the plane climbed, leaving the perfect sun-drenched landscape of Napa behind, I thought about the question that had haunted me for weeks. What is worse, being betrayed by your family, or betraying them for the sake of justice? I still didn't have the answer, but I knew that for the first time in my life I was free. I had not begged for a place at their table. I had not asked for their approval or their love. I had simply taken back the one thing they had tried to steal from me. My own existence. I left them in the ruins of their perfect picture, a wreckage of their own making. My name is Sarah Hayes, and I am finally visible. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left, and thank you for watching.